7 p.m. of Wednesday, March 16th. We are at the Orion Township Municipal Complex Boardroom at 2323 Joslin Road, Lake Orion, Michigan, 48360. Can I have a roll call, please?
Reynolds?
Here.
Gross?
Here.
St. Henry?
Here.
Urbanowski?
Here.
Walker?
Here.
Bracken?
Here.
Gingell?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We do have a public hearing tonight for PC case 2022-09 for Grand Square of Orion special land use request for a drive-through restaurant located on a vacant parcel west of 637 Brown Road, Sidwell 0932-400-099. Before we open up the public hearing here, we will continue forth on our agenda as presented tonight if it's approved. At 7:05, we will terminate our regular meeting and essentially open the public hearing, a portion of our meeting tonight for the PC case mentioned. There will be an opportunity for the petitioner to make a brief presentation, and then we ask citizens who are present here to make a brief comment or pose questions, not to exceed 3 minutes, and 1 trip to the podium. If we've received any citizens' letters, we will read those into the public hearing process. Then it will give us an opportunity as the fellow planning commissioners to provide our public comment, and then an opportunity for the petitioner to essentially answer some questions or essentially provide some additional information for those who have brought up questions or comments through the public hearing process. This is just the public hearing phase of this project. It is not the full deliberation of the PC case. This is strictly to gather public information and give everyone the opportunity with the special land use to provide comment. With that said, we'll circle back to the public hearing portion here in a few minutes as we carry through our regular agenda. I have our PC regular meeting minutes from March 2nd, 2022. If there's any discussion, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, move that we approve the minutes of March the 2nd, 2022, as submitted.
Support by Mr. Walker, moved by Mr. Gross. Further discussion? Seeing none, any public discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please stay with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item number 4 on our agenda tonight is our agenda review and approval. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, move we approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
Motions by Mr. Gross, support by Mrs. Urbanowski. Further discussion? Seeing none, any public discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please stay with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. At this point in time, we offer the opportunity for brief public comment on non-agenda items only. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to address the commission? No one racing up to the podium. We'll move right along. We don't have any consent agenda items, and that will kind of bring us to a close with our agenda until we have the public hearing here at 7:05. So give us just about another 30 seconds, and then we'll pause our regular meeting and reconvene the rest of our agenda here tonight. Like a Jeopardy music. All right, we now have 7:05, so I would move that we adjourn our regular meeting and open the public hearing for the previously mentioned PC case of 2022-09 Grand Square of Orion special land use request for a drive-through. If the petitioner is present here tonight, if they would like to make a brief presentation, if you could please state your name and address for the record, please, and the floor is yours.
Chair and Commission members, I'm Ron Chiesa from RA Chiesa Architects.
Was it on?
Okay. So, up on the screen, we have the site plan for the overall project. We were here in 2020, I think it was. It's kind of been a while. We got the site plan approved for 3 hotels and 2 restaurants on the front of the property. It's 13.26 acres. It's biz zoning, sections A, C, and D. So, during the timing of this, the restaurant for Restaurant Building A has changed user, so we're before you tonight with a new restaurant use for that. We've got a 4,450 square foot restaurant. We'll be taking over that site that was previously approved for an 8,000 square foot restaurant. The use with this particular restaurant will require a drive-through lane. So we've designed the building. It was approved by the corporate office. So getting into your standards, the sit-down dining restaurant, it's compatible with the site because, again, we had a restaurant that was previously approved for this. It's just changed what type of restaurant would be moving into the space. The vehicular circulation on the site is still the same. We just dropped this into the same area that the previous restaurant was approved. No approaches are changed, none of the circulation has changed, interconnecting the site with one another. The dumpster and loading area is located internally, so it's not visible from Brown Road. It's screened with plant material. It's designed on the north side of the building. It's in amongst the parking area for this site. As you know this, or may not know, this is for a Culver's. Would be moving in here. So the visual impact is very similar to the adjacent restaurant that's there, as well as what was going to happen with the 8,000 square foot restaurant. So the business hours, the typical Culver's are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. So that would be the hours that this building is in operation, and we can verify if there needs to be any amendment with the actual operator and owner who's present tonight. The building itself is designed very similar to what was approved on some of the things we presented earlier. It has some stone and fiber cement. We have that on the hotels. We had that on, actually, both restaurants had various forms of that material. So again, we're consistent with that. The footprint has some variations to it. It's staggered. It's not just a rectangular box. So again, that's something that's in your ordinance to try and have something that's got a little bit of deviation to the facade. We also have some awnings on the building, which is their standard branding. So again, that's something that your ordinance speaks to, that they like to see those type of building treatments. The purpose of your zoning ordinance, we do meet that with this drive-through. It's an allowed use. It's a special land use. It's allowed in the A and C sections of which we have gotten approval for this project. Again, a special land use is typical in every community once you have a restaurant with a drive-through. The public services and the facilities necessary for this building are not a problem. The use is actually smaller than what was proposed here prior. And again, everything is basically falling along the same lines with the previous building that was designed, as far as what its intent is in our design goals for the project. Our proximity to your major thoroughfares, there's no changes here. It's in the same area as the previous restaurant. We do have it shadowed in there. It's kind of a ghosted image where you could see the previous, it's in gray. It's hard to see on here, but you probably can see it on your screens. As far as traffic generated, this project should have less traffic generated or be very comparable. The previous restaurant would have had 2.5 times the seating capacity of this building. So again, even though there's a drive-through, the actual volume should actually be less than what we anticipated originally. Our site distances, nothing has changed going in and out of the project. That has not been changed. Our service road that runs around the complex, it has not been altered or changed, so the on-site activity still maintains the same. Our vehicular circulation throughout the site, as well as our parking areas, again, is very similar. It's all landscaped. We've got screening and trees placed wherever we could. We have some decorative lighting also carried on around this site that we've maintained it on the other buildings on the property. Pedestrian circulation, we have a walk that still runs. We have a monument, sign monument structure that's off of Brown Road that brings people in from the city sidewalk underneath the structure, and they can fan out in 45-degree angles to circulate through walk paths on the site that actually take you from front to back. That hasn't changed. We just modified it to fit with this configuration. The building itself poses no detrimental effects to public safety, health, welfare. It's the same type use that we had prior. There should be less activity actually because again, the seating capacity is 2.5 times less than what we were originally anticipating. As far as noise from the order stations, your ordinance, like 60 decibels or nothing more than 60 decibels at the property line. We're 160 feet from the property line on the east side. We're 270 feet from the right-of-way, which is the street line. So typical speakers are set from the manufacturer at 80 decibels. 60 decibels is basically conversation in a conference type room, just to give you an idea. So we should have probably 0 decibels of anything at the road as well as at the east property line. As far as the consideration given to landscaping and other amenities, the site plan, again, as I stated, we've got a smaller restaurant, so that gave us the luxury of having more green areas around this. So again, it's defining this. It's not like you have in some locations where you see outlots and they're just dropped in into a sea of pavement. So this has landscaping around it. It's a very defined area. One of the criteria is that the enhancement of surrounding environment, again, it's speaking again to the character of the materials on the building. Again, they use fiber cement and stone, which is very consistent with what was previously approved, as I stated earlier. So the special land use we feel is consistent and compatible with the existing biz development. Obviously, it's allowed in the biz development, and we're consistent with what's going on in that area. So with that being said, I will close this portion of our presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. If you could provide an opportunity for any citizens present to step up to the podium next, that would be greatly appreciated. Please, at this point in time, if we have any citizens that would like to make any comment, now is the time.
You know, I was going to comment, but
If you could state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Scott Gabriel, 941 Joslin, retired general manager of the Rainforest Cafe, so I'm the restaurant guy. If you're going to put a restaurant in these days, this environment, they have to have a drive-through. I have no relation to you gentlemen, but they have to have a drive-through. It's a consideration. My only concern would be, and I'll call it the Starbucks effect, how many cars can be in that drive-through before it goes out into the road? Beyond that, Culver's is a great company. They have a reputation for treating their employees, their kids great, and I'm sure they'll be a good business partner.
Thank you very much. Additional public comment? Okay, seeing no one racing up to the podium, we'll close those present here. Don't believe we received any citizen letters, correct? Okay. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to my fellow planning commissioners for any thoughts, concerns during the public hearing portion. Seeing none, we'll close that. So I guess just to close out some of the questions, the one question that we got, is there a consideration if you'd step up just in the sense of has stacking been considered, is I believe the question was posed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to respond to that. Some communities I don't get to respond back. That was very prevalent in our design that we did for this. So stacking actually is to the north side of the building. It's internal on the site. It's got its own lane. There's no cross conflict with any traffic. It's not going behind parking spaces. That would block circulation. And there is really a very limited chance if stacking would go beyond the limits of the property as we have it designed. We have, I can't see on there what we have, but I think it was 12 or 13 parking spaces, or stacking spaces. And the way the site is aligned, depending on how the cars are coming in, we've got room for probably half a dozen or more, again, on top of that number.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your response. All right, with that said, that closes out our public hearing portion of PC case. Sorry, I moved my papers around here. PC case 2022-09 at 7:16 PM. And I would like to reconvene our regular meeting, and that leads us right back to the same case. So if the petitioner would like to add anything to their presentation, you're welcome to. If not, I will turn it over to our consultants for their review letters.
Okay, just a couple things that I would like to point out. As I mentioned earlier, the order station, which is always a comment that we get on projects that have drive-throughs, the volume that's on there. So again, based on how we designed this, being 160 feet from the east property line and over 200 feet from the road, and plus you have the road noise, which would be louder than the speaker for the order station, we should have no issues with meeting your requirements. The pedestrian walkway we have widened. We had a 3-foot walk that extended adjacent to this property to the west. We wanted to create a green belt, but we're okay with making that all concrete. So it's concrete from curb to curb. We went with 7 feet. If a car overhangs 2 feet, that still leaves 5 feet for pedestrians to walk. So we improved that aspect of the site. The loading area, as I mentioned earlier, is screened. It's behind the building, which is on the north side of the building. It's not visible from the road. If you look through your documents that we provided, in blue, it shows the wheel pattern of what it takes for a truck to get in there. So we went through that whole thing. This is my IT person, Jason Kishmish, the developer.
You
They
rent
got it
him
on their
out?
screen, so that but you ruined my mojo here.
Oh, no. I was trying to make your life easier a little bit so they could see it, anyway.
So the loading is shown, it works. That's one of the first things that we always check out when we do a project, is make sure that the fire trucks can get around. So there is no issue with that. One of the things that I do want to point out that's a little bit unique to how Culver's operates today is this has a single lane that goes to the window where you pay. Most people are familiar with that would be where you get your food. That's not the case here. So you pull forward, staff directs you where to park, and a staff will bring out the food, and they direct the cars to move around. So that's why we have this Y-shaped 3-lane. I'm going to, if Jason hasn't messed me up here, get back to giving you some examples of other locations that have the exact same scenario. Okay, so what you see here is a Culver's that's at 23 in Hayes in Shelby Township. Again, they have the 3 lanes. They have the 2 lanes outermost for customers to wait for their food to be brought out. They also have the parking spaces in the front, which is for online orders, I believe. So that's very similar to what we have. This site is not as user-friendly as far as vehicles because they have directional parking and then they cut through the drive-through lane. The drive-through lane also could block the people when they leave. So this was an earlier generation of this concept. Okay, here's Wixom. Similar design again with the diagonal parking on the order and drive-through access points, or egress points, excuse me. Again, it's a Y shape, they're splitting it. You've got a couple cars up against where the building curb line is, cars on the opposite side with a lane going through. So that's to allow cars to either pull out and get around existing vehicles. And again, this is all controlled by staff out there. This is not freewheeling. This is much the same as the Chick-fil-A's today. They have staff outside, and they're directing people. So this is the concept. We didn't particularly care for this, and working with Joe on the design of this, we wanted a dedicated drive-through, so we avoid this cross-conflict that you see on both these examples here. As an example of that, on Culver's actual corporate website, they have this as their prototypical site plan to use in some way, shape, or form applicable to every location. So you can see the dedicated drive-through lane. This one's a little bit unique with the island in the merging aspect, similar to a McDonald's in that regard. But they have the exact same thing that we've got for this location. They have the stacking at the top and bottom, a dedicated drive-through lane through the middle so anyone can pull out, and they have a road on the perimeter which is conducive for traffic around the site. So again, they've isolated the drive-through as a separate entity so that it doesn't, this concept that they have works. Dealing with some other businesses, everyone, as a gentleman that spoke, everyone that has a fast casual type business is looking for a creative way to do these drive-throughs because with COVID and just people, just want to pull up and order and leave for convenience, this is not a bad way of doing it. So again, that's their corporate method. So I do want to make that clear that's really what they've done. Our plan was submitted to corporate for approval. They liked it. So I just want to clarify any confusion regarding how that system works. So with that being said, again, I would address any questions that anyone has. But really, the comments that after our reviews that's where we did the 7-foot walk on our site. And I know engineering is working with OHM regarding what they need to do to satisfy the community regarding the civil aspects. So with that, we're looking for your approval to keep this project moving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to our planners, Givels Webster, for their review. Make sure your mic is on there. Press the little button in between, make sure the green light's on.
There we go. All right. Good evening. Good to see you all. So we've kind of heard a little bit about the site. I'll just go over our project summary. As we heard today, the applicant is looking to replace the Restaurant A located on the southeast portion of the site, which was previously approved as an 8,000 square foot sit-down restaurant. They're replacing it with a roughly 4,500 square foot, one-story restaurant with a drive-through. So it's in the same location. This is a type C use and requires special land use approval. So looking at page 2 of our review letter, we've got the summary of kind of the high-level comments of revisions, additional information, and then any planning commission discussion and waivers.
Okay, thank you very much.
So as far as the additional information was concerned, we did ask for some confirmation on the decibel level of the speaker, so that I think I heard 80 decibels was the actual speaker volume. So just a note on there confirming that it won't exceed 60 at the property line would satisfy this requirement. The second comment was briefly touched on by the applicant. We just heard about the drive-through. We had there was a little confusion about, it was more about why they had 3 left arrows kind of going. It seemed like that might cause a little confusion on site, given that it's a two-way drive that they're turning onto. So we just wanted to make that a point of discussion, make sure everybody was comfortable with the way that's marked. The third comment we had for revisions and additional information was that we noted the sidewalk sort of on the southern portion of the site abutting the parking spaces was only 3 feet wide. I did, going back through some of the notes from the original approval, I found some comments that specifically stated the planning commission wanted to see 5-foot sidewalks throughout the entire site, which is how it was approved. So we thought that that should be widened to 5 feet, and then those parking spaces should have parking blocks, so that that sidewalk is not blocked by cars. So that brings us to our comment number 4. Wheel stops are not proposed on any of the parking spaces. This was as it was previously approved. So we were okay with the rest of the site not featuring wheel stops, but we did feel that those abutting up against the sidewalk should have that to keep the sidewalk clear. And then our 5th comment, we also heard from the applicant about the loading berth shall be designed with appropriate means of vehicular access to a street or alley in a manner which will least interfere with traffic movement. It looked like this standard was met. We just were hoping to get that included in the motion, that the planning commission agreed with that. And I do have one additional comment that for discussion. It's included on page 4, but it was just confirming that the facade met the BIS standards. So that's included in the table. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the zoning ordinance tables on the following pages, but those were the high-level comments that we had.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'll turn over to OHM for our civil review.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our letter of March 3rd was our first review. The applicant's already given a nice overview of the project, so I'll just jump ahead to our concluding comments. There was 4 items that we felt was keeping the plan from being in compliance with your ordinances and engineering standards. Those 4 items being number 1, the grading plans and pavement cross-sections need to be provided in the site plan package as required for all site plans. Number 2, it's already been discussed, but the increasing the 3-foot wide sidewalk adjacent to the head-end parking to 7 feet wide, which it sounds like the applicant's already been able to accommodate. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm glad to hear it. Number 3, we similarly had concerns with the 3 left turn only lanes leaving the drive-through into a 2-way traffic. We looked at other similar restaurants in Waterford and Clarkson that were recently constructed. They had parallel parking with just 2 lanes, one bypass and one parallel parking. It would obviously require them to have one-way traffic around the store. That's one option. I guess another option would be basically just to eliminate the 3rd lane. Just have 2 lanes exiting, 1 turning left, 1 turning right. I just don't like the possibility of 3 left turns happening at the same time into 2-way traffic. And number 4, that the preliminary basis of design for the water and sewer that's mentioned on the plans should be updated to reflect the Culvers
Okay, thank you very much. We did have a review from our fire marshal who recommends approval without any additional comments at this point in time. Same goes for public services review by the Director of Public Services. There was a site walk completed by the site walk committee and the report was written by myself. This is a second report of this property. That's currently undeveloped. There was a previous site walk completed prior when it was not a drive-through that was proposed. With that said, I will turn over to my fellow planning commissioners for their initial thoughts, questions, responses.
I guess I'll start.
Go for it, Ms. Urbanowski.
Again, I want to kind of talk about the easy stuff first of all, and we talked about this a little bit with this plan when it initially came in with the hotels, because they have corporate standards and things that they have to abide by. I think we've all seen, hopefully, I know I have many times, Culver's color schemes and the way that their buildings are put together, and I'm okay with, I feel like, the facade. I mean, it's a corporate standard and it fits within, I think the other Culver's is a beautiful building, and I'm pretty sure this one will be too. I am a little bit concerned about that 3 lanes as well. I've never personally been through a Chick-fil-A drive-through, so I'm not really sure how that goes, but will there be people outside physically all the time? Directing traffic, like even in the wintertime? I understand the concept of it. I see where you're going with it, but the 3 left turns when there is two-way traffic that's a little scary, but I understand. Can you explain a little bit more?
Basically, again, the cars are pulling up, they're waiting for their food to be brought out to them. So once their food is brought out to them, then the cars are leaving the site. They're directed by staff. This is what happens at every Culver's. The 2 examples I gave you are the exact same scenario as what we have here. We put the left turn only as a means of controlling that traffic, so everyone is going in one direction. They're not all getting their food at the exact same time and they're pulling out. This is not, trying to merge with the next person. They're coming from a stopped position. So I don't know, if too much is being read into that. This is not a road that has 3 cars that are making a left turn at the same time. If we had it where you could go any direction without a directional arrow, that would be more of a conflict. Because the people that are getting their orders, they're not moving to the left or right on their own. They're being dictated by the staff where they should go. So if the person in car A is directed to the far right lane, they may want to make a left turn. Car B that is in the closest curb line to the building may want to go right. Well, now they're forced to make a left, so you don't have this cross traffic. Again, people aren't moving, they're stopped, and they're proceeding. So, again, this is done at the 2 locations that I just put up on the screen. This died out, Tam.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
It's me.
in any event, that's the nature of how that works. It's different than what you see on the Culver's in the near vicinity to this. So it's something that's what they want. That's their corporate method of doing this order. So it's important that we maintain, as well as their corporate architecture, their corporate policies regarding how they operate. I think if you take today's McDonald's where they're incorporating the double drive order position and it's all merging into one and it's coming around, and a lot of times that's blocking traffic, or their loading zone is blocking these order positions and cars have to kind of merge back. So we've cleaned that up here. Again, we've got a long drive-through lane. It's a singular purpose. Again, not everyone is getting their food brought out at the same time. Staff's out there to direct this. This is not anything new that's starting at this facility. What But again, I showed you two examples because I was trying to show you that this is out there and that's what they do. And that plan that I showed you as a concept plan is direct from Culver's website. So that's their method that they would like to see this operate. I personally, as an architect, looking at traffic flow on a site, would rather see everyone go left. That was our idea. I didn't want to have people where they might want to cross and start going the other direction. So it's better off to keep them internal on site. We have a two-lane traffic. Both of those buildings that I showed you also had two-way traffic that those 3 lanes came out into. So again, this is proven. The Shelby Township one is by my home. I've never heard or seen of an accident with this functioning method that they have. So that addresses your question.
Just to touch on Ron's point, it's very important to understand that not all of these cars are going to be pulling out all at the same time, because your food is delivered to them individually. It's usually one staff member out there, and you're never going to see 6 cars stacking unless they're busy. I mean, this, during lunchtime and dinner time, they do get filled up, but it's very important to note that you would rather control the way the traffic is going to flow than give people the free-for-all to make whatever direction that they want. I hate to say it like that, but a lot of times you're better off controlling that than allowing people to make rights and left and things like that. So if there's 4 cars queuing, 1 car gets his delivery, by the time the employee gets there, goes back and gets the next order, that car is already pulled out. You don't have a situation where you have 4 cars both looking to exit at the same time, making the left. And we thought here the left is probably better, because if they turn right, then they're crossing into all the Texas Roadhouse customers and whatever else is going on there. You want the path from when they exit to when they get out of the site to be the closest and cross as least amount of pedestrian traffic or other traffic that you can avoid. In some of those other concepts, the way they were designed, cars going right are actually going to go through another outlot, crossing all the cars that are going into that restaurant, and, just got room for more issues like that. So, again, just very important to note, this drive-through lane, it's prepped for 12 cars, but the reality is, you'll probably add another 12 cars before you get to Brown Road, because this is all internal. This site is all circulating internal to the pad. In addition to the pad, there's a access drive that comes off of Brown Road into the whole development. So if Joe's got that much traffic going on in this, then I gotta charge him more rent, or something, but there's a lot of capacity the way this was designed. And when we sent this to corporate, actually, they didn't come back with not one change. It was a well-thought-out plan. I give Ron a lot of credit on this. I'm not as good at this stuff as he is, but, it's organized. You have enough capacity to handle a high volume. Another thing to keep in mind is when I was talking to corporate, this design was, meant for for their corporate brand standards. These are sites in Florida and California where the volumes are sometimes double what you would see in a Midwestern Culver's. With that said, we're never, I doubt he'll ever outgrow the capacity that we're affording him at this site, but, the middle lane, again, and that stacking is kind of designed for cars to be able, if the car in the back maybe gets their order first, is designed so that car can pull out and get out of the way. It's not, this design is not where all 3 are trying to make the left at the same time. It won't happen with the way the restaurant operates.
The other thing to keep in mind, this is a site internal to a larger development versus a standalone site where Culver's has their own property and you can design it with a one-way traffic pattern around. We need to have circulation for emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles, heading both ways. So to restrict traffic, we hardly ever do any diagonal parking in one-way direction because it just causes confusion and traffic issues. So the only place it works is if you have a McDonald's or something like that.
Freestanding.
It's all freestanding, you can circulate around the building, everyone's going in the same direction. But here, you could have people coming from the west approach to get into this site, work their way around to the drive-through. So we've got to have the two-way traffic, and again, I firmly believe that having the left turn only, and it's controlled by staff, because again, they're bringing the food out, so they're directing what's going on. So again, as Jason stated, when we did this design after meeting with the owner, He told us what they would be looking for, and that corporate did not have one change. What we did the first time through went through every level of their approval process. So, with that being said, that's, obviously, they wouldn't do something if they didn't
Understood.
think it works.
Yep. I want to give fellow planning commissioners some chance to talk about some other topics too. So is there other things on your list? Otherwise, a couple other people might have a few other comments to say.
I just want to clarify something about the decibels. It's the decibels that you can perceive at a certain distance? Is that what?
The standard is any noise associated with a drive-through shall not exceed 60 decibels when measured at the property line.
So,
Can't be louder than.
yeah, so you're saying it's 80 coming out of there, but
80
it's
at the
going to be?
It's at the speaker. We're 60 in here, just to give you a.
Well, yeah, that's what, I'm just wondering if there was a formula that you, like, is there a formula that you could say, here it's going to probably be whatever?
Yeah, the speakers that come from the manufacturer are preset in an 80 to 84 dB range. And 16 feet away from those speakers, you're already down to 60, at 16 feet.
Okay,
It's
that's
usually
what
a
I was-
clause that we put in, and then if we have an issue, obviously, then that, if there is a complaint or we are acknowledging that it's louder than that at the property line, then we ask that to be, that's our measure, that's our mark, is it can't be louder than that. So it's usually just a condition of the special land use.
Got it.
Additional thoughts?
Yeah, I just have one question. When you talk about traffic control in the parking lot, I know I've been in the Culvers and I've been in other fast food places, where they tell you pull into space A or space 4 or whatever, and then the folks come out and bring your food, and then you back out, and you're right, it's typically staggered. Will you literally have somebody in the parking lot directing traffic?
As now, at his other site. I mean, that's usually how it's done, yes. And Joe, you could speak to that if you like.
I mean, I guess you probably do when it's super busy. I know Mr. Zimmer's other Culvers can be very crowded. I've never been there where I've actually seen people directing traffic into the waiting slots, but.
Joe, if you would, can you state your name and address? for the
Joe
record,
Zimmer,
please?
the owner of Culver's. Basically, when a customer places their order at the window, we will tell them where to go based upon that person's experience on where the cars are located or whatever. So, for instance, if lane 1 is full, then they'll ask that person to pull into that third lane and to keep that center lane available. So I've worked in quite a few Culvers, and the setup that corporate has given us and the design that Ron has put together is awesome. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but it's usually the person that works the window will tell them, because we want to keep that line moving. And and we deliver the drinks and the dessert at the window, which we have 3 people. One is just doing the drinks and the customer, so if they get that as soon as they cash out or tender out, they leave the window and go to their designated spot. And then we have a good system that we give a number to the car, and we actually put it on the car so that the person will run the food out when it's ready, because everything is made to order. So, for instance, a cod dinner could take 5 minutes, and a Butterburger could take 3 minutes. So it doesn't all come out at once, like Jason mentioned. The food, it doesn't come all out at once, and they all take off. So it's a great system.
So a couple of comments that I have here. I don't have any explicit issue with essentially the other. Thank you. The other comments that got brought up, obviously we would like those other items that are required by our ordinance to be provided and verified by our professional consultants. If 7-foot wide sidewalks are provided, I believe we're fine without wheel stops, since that typically is no greater than 2-foot overhang. I don't want to obviously beat this topic to death. I mean, I see where our consultants are coming from, and it's been a large topic of discussion with other drive-throughs. So my only question would be is the center lane going to be clearly marked as through traffic only? And then the other question is if what we're looking at here, which would be the planned south or the western drive, if that's kind of the secondary opportunity to have vehicle stacking post-order, is there any restriction to essentially guiding that lane back into the through traffic lane so we only have 2 left turn lanes, if you're following my comment here? I think the issue that we're observing here is 3 lanes of traffic turning left into two-way traffic. If it was reduced from 3 to 2, would that that would potentially be a step forth towards alleviating some of that 3 lanes all turning left. I understand the process. I'm familiar with Culvers. I've been to Culvers with worse stacking situations than this, but there's a very good likelihood here of this location, and especially Culvers in this location, to be busy, both sides of the window, and I know they do a great job moving the traffic through, but that was my one opportunity to essentially improve this traffic flow is can that outermost kind of stacking or post-order weight be kind of merged back into the through traffic lane to then be prompted for a left turn?
I think that by letting lanes go different directions, you're just creating more problems in reality.
I'm not talking about different directions. I'm talking about still a left turn, but there you would go from 1 to 2 and back to 2 to make the left turn. 1 to 3 and back to have that planned south lane be merged back into the through traffic lane to only have the through traffic lane or the stacking lane be turning left.
Are you talking about having only 2 access points where they're all exiting versus having 3?
Correct,
You're
but
talking
still
about-
3 lanes to provide service, so you would essentially have the eastern lane be able to turn left, the center lane be through traffic, and the second, if I'm understanding this correctly, to be secondary overflow to essentially just merge back into that through left lane. So there is only 2, you still have the width of 3, and you have those 2 left turns there. And I don't want to speak, on a traffic study standpoint, but I think it's the 3 lanes all turning in the potential for multiple traffic.
The issue, if I'm understanding correctly what you're asking, we would have to provide basically an angled curb line to have the people in the western line get into the center line.
Correct.
With doing that, now we're also pushing the cars back then further, which could cause a little bit of a bottleneck at the pay window, where right now there is no bottleneck based on how this is set up. So, again, this is not a site where it's one way around and you have this constant traffic. I don't think you're going to have a high volume of traffic in the front of this. It's no different than any drive-through where you have to wait and merge to go left or right. We've got some sites that we've designed and we put the arrows down and people are doing their own thing. And I think if you allow any other type treatment than what we have where somebody can just pull out, again, Joe's got people out there, they bring their food and those people are clear to go. Now it's up to that individual driver to wait for traffic to clear just like you would at any aisle that you're going down.
Sorry to cut you off, but back to is the center lane going to be through traffic only? And is it possible for that to still maintain corporate standard and merge back in? Do we know that?
And if I remember a discussion about this at one time, the issue with that was if the far lane becomes, you want to give it the ability to only merge into the center lane, is if the car behind that one that's ready to merge gets their food first, how do you get them then to merge?
Right.
So you have to keep it open. The intent here, and it's going to be clearly demarked, is for everybody to merge into that middle lane to get out of the site. Now, what you have is if you'll have that front car, if that got its food first, then it's going to make its left out. But the idea is if the car behind it got its food first, then it's gonna have to merge into that center lane in order to make its left out. And that's the distinction. If you put a curb line and you force that far lane to merge, then if the car behind it got its foot first, it's gonna stay there until the car in front of it is moved out. And I think that was a little bit of a discussion early on with Culvers, and that's why we said, okay, we gotta do it this way, give people enough flexibility to merge in the middle lane if they're not the first car out, and that way you can keep it moving.
Additional comments, questions?
I like
Also,
it.
if corporate sees that this doesn't work, they're not going to prolong something. This is what they do on their location. So as I showed you two other examples, and that, those locations had no destination, whether you could go right or left. They just let you decide, and we're trying to simplify it by making everyone go left.
Just the last thing, we did a Krispy Kreme, it was a Experience of the Future store. This drive-through designs are gonna evolve. When you get them, it's gonna tell you right on your phone where to go. You're not even gonna interact with human beings. And that's kind of what these designs are evolving to, right? So when you get your order, and it's gonna be a mobile order, you might not even see a person. It's gonna tell you to queue in lane 3 or queue in lane 4. That Krispy Kreme, they almost designed it like a racetrack. There was 4 lanes. They would all go in queue. And that's, unfortunately, that's where this fast casual business is going, is people are not sitting in these restaurants as much anymore, and they're
Understood.
in and out.
All right, would like to turn over my fellow planning commissioners. Mr. Walker.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Joe and I go back decades. When I read this stuff, I was pretty impressed, and I'm the one up here that normally says, I'm not going to conditionally approve anything because it should be worked out before you get here. So reviewing this material before I got here today, I said, this is great, because there's not a lot that the people that we pay money to make sure we do things the right way are differing from you folks. And now I'm hearing this, I totally agree with Mark that the 3 lanes bother me. I mean, it bothers me a lot. And we're here, that you can't figure out some way to just angle that 3rd lane so that there's not 3 lanes. So I'm stunned by the whole thing. I thought we'd be done already. I thought you guys would have worked it out. And I would have voted to give you the conditional approval of this, and I'm sitting here stunned because we're, nitpicking over things that I think it may, from a safety point of view. I'm not talking corporate Culver, I'm not talking Joe, I'm not talking you, but we have our experts saying he's concerned, and you guys say it's not a concern. But when he says there's a concern, I think there's a concern.
If I can address that, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to let some other commissioners provide some comment. I've given you quite a bit of floor time. So, Mr. St. Henry, did you have something to say?
Yeah, sorry. So Mr. Zimmer's other Culvers, that's not 3-lane, that's not a 3-lane design?
That's a single site use.
Because it's a single site by
It's
itself.
designed,
One-way
do you have,
traffic.
you have 2 or 3 lanes there in reality?
Joe's Abraham. What, Jason?
This is one-way traffic.
Oh, yeah. There is a difference there, and there are 3 lanes. The first lane will, go stay next to the building, usually 4 or 5 cars. And then, we have parallel parking there, which is not a real good idea because they gotta pull in to the right, and then you gotta be, when you back out, and I deliver the food a lot to the customer, so I know I always direct them back. It's okay to back up. And then the center lane, which in our case would be the drive-through lane all the time, pulls forward and proceeds to the left. In this case, would be to the east. So we do have 3 lanes, but it's because of the way the site was designed and where it would fit, and every site is different, and we have to try to complement the best that we can. In that case, it's got parallel parking to the right, which would be bad because of them backing up. Well, you can understand that. And Scotty would know, he runs into that quite a bit, I'm sure. But then the second lane, middle lane, is, everything is to the left.
Right.
We even have a sign that one way only, so that when you come in, you can't turn right. So there wouldn't be a head-on collision, for instance. I hope that,
You know, it does.
Helps
I'm
explain it.
familiar with your drive-through.
thank you. Yeah.
Lot of ice
And it
cream
works.
and burger
We don't have an
burgers.
issue with it. And I might indicate to the commission too, that it's very important that your drive-through person, they instruct them, which to go, they can't go left, first of all, in this, at my existing store, because if they did, they'd be in the swamp. So good common sense, they know to go left. And I agree with Jason and Ron, that if you do go, let's say that third lane, if they would go right, they're gonna be going into another restaurant parking lot, and it could be an issue. So we're thinking if you go to the left, and the person taking out the food indicates to them, this is your way out, it won't be an issue. That center lane must be kept open at all times, so that if the person in the front of the line is holding everything up because their order was too long, the cars behind it are gonna be sitting there not real happy. So that's why we have the center lane, so they can pull out and go into the center lane and turn left. Most of your traffic is gonna be going left. So I hope that answers.
Or if that customer's only getting custard or a drink, they'll be stuck there waiting if they don't have a lane that directly gets them out of the site. They're not gonna queue. That food is delivered at the drive-through window.
I think you'd have a worse problem if that third lane turned right than if it turned left.
Well, what they're looking for, Joe, is if it angles in so that you have to merge to the middle lane. But the problem that does is it backs up, it limits the amount of cars that can be in that right lane, which now you're gonna back up the cars because of the window that you pay. So you need to have an area that cars can keep moving. So that's, you're probably only gonna have two at the most that would be looking to go out simultaneously. And they would have to look at one another, and hopefully one's gonna let the other person go. We can't control how people drive. But that's the idea. If we're already going from a single lane flared out into two waiting lanes, if you put another angled green area at the right side of the west lane, you're gonna limit how many cars can go over to that side, which now will start blocking the cars leaving the window, and you're just gonna create a cluster internally. Again, no disrespect to Mark, and his opinion on it, but this is corporate, that they look at this and they study this and they see how this works. They would not approve this if they knew that it did not cause problems.
Additional comments, questions, concerns? Mr. Gross.
I think you've answered my questions. I think it makes some sense. I don't have a problem with the 3 lanes, especially if there's some on-site over where the cars are going and how they're exiting. So I think you've done a good job of trying to address the issues and provide a good solution.
Additional comments? Questions for consultants? Not, this can discuss motions if anyone's willing to make one. There's a few that need to be made here on a special land use.
I guess the first motion is whether or not we should approve a special land use. And then the site plan issue would be a separate motion. So relative to the special land use, I would move that the Planning Commission approve PC 2022-09 for Grand Square of Orion. Special land use for a drive-through located on the vacant parcel west of 639 Brown Road, being parcel Sidwell 0932 400 099, for the following findings of facts, that this is compatible with adjacent uses. There are other drive-through facilities in the area consisting of car wash, a bank, Checkers, Panda Express, so that there are other drive-through facilities within the area. It is compatible, number two, it is compatible with the master plan, reflecting combined with other uses for a mixed-use development in the Biz District. Adequate public services are available. There is adequate, number four, there is adequate stacking on the site so as not to interfere with any backup onto Brown Road. Number five, I see no detrimental effects that this would have on any of the surrounding properties, and would therefore recommend approval of the special land use in accordance with the ordinance.
Support.
Further discussion? Seeing none, any public discussion on the motion? Can I have a roll call vote, please?
St. Henry,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Urbanowski,
Yes.
Bracken,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, that leads us, accomplishes the first part of the case tonight. There's additional motions if someone's willing to make one.
All right, I'll move the motion that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for PC 2022-09 Grand Square Orion Site Plan Amendment located on the parcels as identified, with the plan date stamped February the 17th, 2022, with the revisions of the township engineer of his letter of March the 3rd, 2022, items in his conclusion, items 1, 2, and 4, being the grading plans, increasing the sidewalk width to 7 feet, and number 4, the provision of the floor plans for the covers. I believe the applicant has provided adequate information relative to the ingress and egress from the drive-through area, and the plan does comply with all the other ordinance requirements.
Motion, do I have support?
Support.
Support by Mrs. Urbanowski. Further discussion on the motion?
I do have a question for that.
Go ahead, Mr. St. Henry.
So just real quick, if for whatever reason the store opens up, you have the 3 left turn lane traffic flow. If for whatever reason it's not working, for just because people don't get it or there's just issues, will there be an opportunity, given the design, to make changes if necessary?
Anything that doesn't function, whether it's because, municipal requirement or corporate requirement, the hell with what corporate wants at the end of the day. If it doesn't work, we have to change.
Okay, I just,
That's good business for Joe, and that's good business for me as a developer.
just want to put it out there, that's all, that if it doesn't work, it will be fixed.
Further discussion? Okay, public discussion on the motion. All right, roll call vote, please.
Urbanowski,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Walker,
No.
Bracken,
Yes.
St. Henry,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that leads us along in our agenda tonight for PC case 2022-12. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping around here. 2021-07, master plan update.
This item was put on the agenda because when we sent it, if you recall, the last planning commission meeting, it was sent to the Board of Review for them to authorize the release for review by the necessary agencies and surrounding communities. When it was sent to the board, they really, because it was a complete overhaul of the master plan, wanted more time to look it over. So they asked that at that meeting, they were given the master plan to look at, and they're going to forward any comments or questions they had, and then when they're satisfied, it would be authorized to release. At the board meeting, they did ask that all comments be into me by Monday. So I went ahead and put it on for discussion of the comments, but they all didn't come in. So I really have nothing else to add, no discussion. I guess this line item was a update.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, if you would keep us updated on the timeline, that would be appreciated. And I guess we're all eager to keep that moving forward. And obviously, the 63-day period also applies to our board.
Question for Tammy. So based on their comments and questions, and let's say that the plan is changed, will we be notified of the changes that the trustees want, or how is that going to work?
I would assume it would come back. I'm assuming that the comments that come in will come back for the planning commission to say, thanks for your comment, not interested.
Yea or nay? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it would make a trip back to us before it was put back on the board agenda, unless no comments come in.
Okay.
If there's no comments, then it would go forth as it was directed originally.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, any additional 5-year master plan update? All right, moving right along, PC case 2022-12, which is PC case bylaws amendment. If you want to give us a brief overview, Tammy, obviously we have our memo, the red line, and the clean version. Seems fairly straightforward, but if you could just kind of fill us in a little bit of where this originated from.
Absolutely. It actually originated at the Zoning Board of Appeals. It was discovered that the ZBA bylaws had not even been amended when the Zoning Enabling Act had been modified. So the bylaws did not follow the law. So we were asked to have the attorney look at it. It could have been a short fix just for that one deficiency, but these hadn't been looked at Planning Commission in a long time either. Plus, there was discussion of maybe we should have a little bit of uniformity how the bylaws for the ZBA look compared to the PC. And not saying that necessarily you follow or have the same bylaws, but if the bylaws of the Zoning Board of Appeals gave, what an agenda looks like and what order you do it in, then why didn't the Planning Commission or vice versa? So we looked at them both at the same time. I wrote my recommendations, things that I saw, and forwarded it to the attorney, and then she worked on it. So anything within here is based on my comments and from her legal opinion. But of course, these are your bylaws, so if there's something that was changed that you have an issue with, by all means, this was our starting point. The existing bylaws, in addition to the proposed bylaws, say to adopt it, you have to first, a meeting before you say that you want to approve them, you have to read the changes. So if you think you're close enough and realize that because we have to have that one meeting, we would not be approving them tonight anyways, which would give you an additional, we have an extra Wednesday in March, so it gives you a number of weeks, then I would ask that you were provided with, and I did check with the attorney, you can just say the sections that changed. You do not have to read the actual changes. So I would ask that this evening you at least do that, read the changes, which would take care of the one meeting prior, having them be read. If by some chance you look at them and there's big changes, then we'll look at whether we have to read the changes again.
Okay. All right, thank you for that overview. So I do not want to speak on behalf of everyone. I read the bylaws and felt comfortable with the proposed changes. If there's agreeance to that, we could make that statement here tonight. If there's discussion or proposed changes that you would like to make, obviously this isn't our one and only, but obviously just starts the notification process. So does anyone object to that? Okay, with that said, I will just read into the record that on our regular planning commission meeting of Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, under PC case 2022-12, we are proposing to amend our bylaws, specifically sections, Article 5, Section 1A, Section 1C, Section 2, Section 3, Section 6, and under Article 8, Section 1, Section 2, Section 4, and Section 5. This would be placed on a future meeting for the formal discussion and essentially to post the amendment and move forward on the process. More than likely is, I guess if there is any additional comments, but more than likely at one of our following meetings in April. Correct? Is that an accurate statement to make?
Correct. I would be shooting for the first meeting in April, which is kind of filling up, but I don't really, same thing, you know, if.
Yep.
Put it on. If we have discussion that's taking too long, we can have a motion to bring it to the next one. But if there is no discussion, why not get it done? So
We love text amendments. Why wouldn't we just handle it right then and there, Tammy? Come on. So,
Exactly.
no sarcasm.
And it is approval by the planning commission, but it is ultimately the board of trustees that approves also.
Okay.
We would have one more step after the planning commission said that they're good with them.
Okay, additional comments? All right, well, I guess hereby, for the record, notify that we're starting that process, so thank you very much. Moving right along, do we have any public comments? Can be agenda items or non-agenda items. See no one racing up to the podium, we'll call that quits. We don't have any communications tonight, correct? Or planners' reports. We don't have any committee reports. We do have two future public hearings for our April 6th meeting at 7:05, PC case 2022-10, the River Church special land use request for a church located at 3900 South Baldwin Road, parcel 0929301029, 3910 South Baldwin Road, parcel 0929301034, and 3920 South Baldwin Road, parcel 0929301038. And immediately following the previously mentioned public hearing, we will have a public hearing for PC case 2022-11 for CSB Investment LLC rezone request to rezone approximately 1.7 acres of 1050 West Silverbell Road, parcel 0927301050 from limited industrial to industrial park IP. With that said, I do not have any comments this evening. Mrs. Gingell.
No comments.
Mr. Walker.
No comment.
Mr. St. Henry.
I'm good.
Mr. Gross.
Nothing.
Mrs. Urbanowski.
Hungry for Culver's now.
Well, now they said you get your drink and your ice cream right at the window, so. Mr. Bracken.
Nothing for me.
Tammy, any comments?
I have nothing.
Okay. With that said, I would make a motion that we adjourn our meeting at 8:14 PM. Do I have a second?
Support.
All those in favor, please stay with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.